I am present within myself. I can center myself with the ease of my breath. I feel grounded, confident, worthy, and whole. Hello, hello. So I started off today with a quote about breath because I just learned about breath today, and that is what I'm coming on to talk with you guys about today. So, breath is so important for yoga, and it's one of the things that I actually focus on um, probably the most throughout, versus not even so much with the asana. I think that breath is even more important than the asana is. And so if you ever join me in a yoga class, I'm continually reminding you to breathe. We usually start or end with some breath work here. And so I want to go ahead and tell you a little bit about why we use breath so much with yoga and some of the benefits that we get from it. So in yoga, breath is believed to be the life force life force or energy that travels throughout our body as we do yoga, and even outside of yoga. Um, the movement of breathing itself actually helps to maintain the suppleness and elasticity of your ribs, the costal cartilage, and the muscles that help support and mobilize your spine. So that alone is one of the reasons that I really focus on breath a lot. I'm a huge posture person. I think that that's really important for maintaining health and wellness, is to be in tune with your posture. And so that's really important for being in tune with your posture. Also, breathing consciously is one of the most important parts of a yoga class because it helps us to cultivate this wholeness in our mind, body, and spirit. And so we not only use breath in just one way in the yoga class. We use breath during a meditation, during our asanas, right at the beginning of class. And so there's a lot of different ways that we use breath in yoga. So another thing that is really awesome, something that I just learned today, we actually have about 1,500 miles of airway within each of our lungs and over 300 million alveoli, which the alveoli are the little, it's basically where our oxygen gets exchanged for carbon dioxide within our bodies. And so that's pretty cool to me. I'm a huge anatomy and physiology person, and so for me, that's something that excites me, but it might not be exciting for everybody. Another really cool thing about the respiratory system or breathing is that it actually enhances the respiratory functions. It improves the circulatory system, it improves digestion, and also elimination within the body. So just by focusing on the breath and the awareness of your breath, you're actually able to enhance and support other systems within our bodies. So our natural breathing can actually be compromised by internal factors such as depression and anxiety, tight, weak muscles of the respiratory system, distractions, and that fight or flight system within our body as well. So those are just kind of a couple of little fun facts about breathing and why it's important for breathing within a yoga class, because not only does it support us within the yoga class, it also helps to support us outside of the yoga class. And so there are two types of breath. And so the two types of breath are costal breath, which is rib breathing, and then there's diaphragmatic breath, which is belly breathing. I am a humongous fan of belly breathing because I don't think that we're really taught belly breathing. From what I remember being taught mostly is breathing into your lungs, and that is just the costal breathing, but we actually have 75% of our respiratory effort is actually diaphragmatic or belly breathing. And so I think that it's such a huge thing to focus on in breath work, is that diaphragmatic belly breathing. And so I will tell you guys about 3 different kinds of breath work that I focus on in a lot of my yoga classes, and that you'll see a lot in a lot of other yoga classes as well. And so they are 3-part breathing, Ujjayi breath, and alternate nostril breathing. So I'm going to go ahead and show you like a little quick overview of what each of the different breath types are, and then I will actually break down the breath work in 3 more videos and go ahead and break them down one at a time to go just a little bit deeper. So we'll start with this 3-part breathing. Basically, the 3-part breathing is splitting up our lung capacity into the 3 different sections here. So the first part is going to be the diaphragm. Then we have the rib cage, and then we have the chest for the 3rd part there. And so this 3-part breath helps to calm the mind and the nervous system. It relieves stress and increases immunity and blood circulation. But this is really, really cool. It increases oxygen and energy into our bodies by 7 times that of our normal breath. And the 3-part breath can be performed either in a seated or a supine position. So supine is laying down. You could see this 3-part breathing either at the beginning and or the end of practice. And so what this is actually when we take our breath in, we breathe into the belly and then into the ribs and then into the chest. And then as we exhale, we go from the chest to the ribs to the belly there. So that is a little bit of the 3-part breath. Then you have your Ujjayi breath, which is probably the most common yoga breath, and it's referred to as ocean breath usually. And the reason for that is because when we breathe, we kind of make that sound. And so you could perform that sound through breathing with the mouth open, and or you could also do this breath with the mouth closed once you kind of continue to work on the breath and you start to build that lung capacity. So with the with creating this ocean breath with the mouth closed, you're actually still going to create that sound, but it's going to be a little bit more subtle. So it's going to sound like so it's a little bit more subtle. It's not as loud. So you probably wouldn't be able to hear your neighbor next to you in a yoga class as loud versus if you were to do the breath with your mouth open. So something that's really important to note with this one is that the breath doesn't come from your mouth. It actually comes from the back of your throat. And so if you can imagine, like when you, in the winter, if you're ever warming your hands up, they're really cold, and we kind of breathe really heavily trying to warm the hands up. That's the same kind of breath that we're using here. And so same thing with this breath. It can be performed in a seated or supine position. And this is actually the breath that we use while moving throughout the asanas as well, which the asanas are the different poses throughout a yoga practice. And so Ujjayi breath helps to bring heat into the body, and it calms and centers the mind, focuses the mind, helps with concentration during a yoga practice. Yes. And so the third breath work that we talk about in a yoga class is alternate nostril breathing. And alternate nostril breathing is usually performed while seated, and your mouth is closed. And so the way that this one works is you're actually closing off one side of the nostril and then closing off the other side, and you basically alternate as you do this. And so this helps to calm the mind, relieves stress and tension, but it also helps to balance the left and the right side of the brain and the body as well. So that's kind of one of the added benefits of that alternate nostril breath as well. And what's important with this one is over time, as you continue to work on the breath work here and you start to build, again, that lung capacity, you'll actually start to try to have a 2-to-1 ratio, with your exhale being 2 and the inhale being the 1. Yes. And so that's a little bit about the breath work here. So be sure to stay tuned for some of a deeper look into all 3 of those different breath work types, because I'll go ahead and break them down and we'll do a little bit of practicing with them so that you can learn to practice outside of a yoga classroom. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned.